was. David, her husband, huge, huge man to have behind me in terms of someone to turn to for advice. And I pick up the telephone to them a huge amount, and I annoy them. I know, but it's great to have people like that in the background. And yes, they've bought these good horses for us, and now we've got to go to the bigger stages and show that we're worthy of being here and worthy of being on the bigger stages.
Humidor, how'll he take to Dubai, do you think?
Interesting horse. He's one of these sprinters, they have their quirks, and he definitely has his quirks. I mean, he came to us with a mark of 74, and he's now up to 180. He won the Scarborough Stakes, a listed race under Frankie at Doncaster. He was then disappointing when we took him out to San Siro for a Group 3. He's a quirky old horse who, on his day, can be right up there with the best of them. And these sprinters, as you know, they take it in turns and beating each other. Mark of 180 justifies going there, and there are plenty of races for him out there. We'll see. I mean, it is, when you've got horses up at this level, it means you can go to these places, and that's what we want to be doing. I mean, Wolverhampton and Southall and places like that on a wet and windy Monday, when the horses win, fantastic, because that's where you've got to be to win races. But of course we want to go to the bigger places as well. But at the same time, we're always going to be surrounded, as every trainer is, by the more mediocre animals. And you've got to win with them as well. And winning the 0 to 55 at Southall in deepest, darkest February, that's great. It's got to be done. And it means a lot to the owners. And winning at Royal Ascot is what we want to be doing, but winning at Wolverhampton is certainly not going to be going out the window.
Humidor was seen going up the grass this morning. What was he doing?
He was just having a steady breeze. He's only been back in for about a fortnight now. He'll go to Dubai the first week of January, I would have thought. So we're still about 5 weeks off him getting on the aeroplane. So we're just sort of building him up gradually. He'll do a couple of pieces of work before he gets out to Dubai, and then obviously, be ridden regularly out there, and hopefully both him and Belgian Bill will be there through January, February, March, and if they stay sound and are competitive, there are plenty of options for both horses.
Sergeant Troy came from Roger Charlton's. I was lucky enough to sit on him. Whatever, he just feels very straightforward, bit of a character.
I hope so. I mean, he's, Mustafa and Mert Khan last year they bought a number of horses at the Horses in Training sale to run through the winter. He's one of their purchases. We haven't rushed with him. I think he's going to be a horse who will have him sort of ready for early in the new year, but hopefully with a view to running through the turf season. Early days, as it is with a lot of those horses that came from the Horses in Training sale, but he's settled in very well. All the horses we've bought at the Horses in Training sale, they've settled in here fantastically, and some of them will run away on through the winter on the all-weather. Others will wait until next spring.
Beggar's Banquet looked well this morning. You can see why he hasn't run.
Big Dubawi 2-year-old. Yeah, we've taken our time with him. But I hope he's a lovely horse. He certainly gives us the impression of being a very exciting horse at the moment. A little bit weaker than perhaps he looks, like so many sort of big 2-year-olds. We've given him time, and he's now just beginning to thrive and reap the benefits of that. And yeah, an exciting prospect for next year for sure.
Donnacha, winner for his point-to-point in his native Ireland. He run well. We promised a couple of starts for you.
I'm very pleased with him. Yeah, bought him in the springtime at that sale at Newbury, and yeah, on debut he was 5th at Wincanton in a decent bumper. Then we ran him last week over 2.5 miles in a maiden hurdle at Lingfield. Andrew was very pleased with the horse, and Andrew Tinkler really liked him. I think he's going to be a 3-mile chaser. That's really what he's going to be all about. But yeah, all the signs are definitely there that this could be a very nice, progressive, staying type, and winning his point-to-point over 3 miles in Ireland. And that's where we want to go. Everything has been about getting him back to 3 miles, and all he did the other day at Lingfield was stay on up the home straight. So very encouraging, very encouraging.
Good old Paul is similar profile. at the Balderdash. He's won a point in his native Ireland. He's just going to take it. He has taken a bit more time.
Yeah, good old Paul, owned by a very patient gang, Adrian Coleman and Toby Wand. Adrian, who was responsible for the Meerkat adverts, as a little aside. A good old Paul came to us, had some problems. We really had to back right off him. Forgot about him, threw him in a field. He's out of the field, as you saw, obviously, and he's been on the go for 2.5, 3 months. He'd be 6 weeks off a run. A similar type of horse to Balderdash. He'd be a staying chaser, a big old-fashioned chasing type, a lovely type of horse, but we'll need plenty of work for sure, and we're just stepping it up with him, and cliche, he'll tell us when he's ready to hit the racecourse, but hopefully it'll be mid-January at the latest.
And you'll keep him to hurdles this season?
No, I think he'll probably could easily start in a hurdle race, but I think his forte is definitely going to be jumping a fence, and we'll go down that route sooner rather than later again.
One horse that stood out for me this morning was Divi, a half-brother to Divers, who's placed in the Paddy Power, winner at the Cheltenham Festival last year.
Absolutely. Divi, he was a standard bearer for us to begin with. He won a couple of bumpers at Plumpton, and he was second to a Frascati Park on debut, and just gave us much hope at that stage. But then he's just been a little bit disappointing. He ran well a couple of times over hurdles, and then disappointed. And similar profile last season, started off very well, and then things rather sort of tailed off. We're going over a fence with him. Plan is to run him sort of around over Christmas time. He seems to run very well, fresh. Maybe that is the key to him. Keep him fresh. He seems a happy horse at the moment. He's a horse who we had a lot of hope for, and he's just disappointed us so far. But I think a fence and 3 miles could be the making of him.
Gunnar will look well this morning. He was good in his debut at Sandown, a promising second.
Yeah, we saw him out in the field this morning on his holidays. I'm very pleased with him on debut. Slightly disappointed by his last run at Doncaster. I thought he'd go very close on that occasion, so we've forgotten about him after that. I hope he's a really exciting, he's a La Vida Colore. I'm sure he'll improve massively for the holiday that he's on now. Seems a very fresh and happy horse. Looking forward to getting going with him early January. He'll be back in training 1st, 2nd of January.
Jake's Destiny, he won his maiden in good style at Wolverhampton. That was only his second career start.
Yeah, Jake's Destiny, third on debut, won well on his second start. Kieran Fallon was very impressed with him on that occasion, said he gave him a very nice fill. He won on the bridle. He then ran recently in a conditions race at Lingfield behind a good horse of Alan Bailey's. Ran very well, was a little bit green, a little bit inexperienced. Again, ran him there for the experience, because I think he's a horse who, just the penny took a while to drop. Looking forward to him very much next year. I hope he'll be a bit of a flag bearer for Jamie Ritblatt, named after his son Jake.
Frankie Dettori, he's built up a good relationship with Billy Ray Valentine. He's won on him twice now.
Frankie won on him at Sandown, won very well. And then I think his next run was actually probably even better than that. He went off a 9-4 on-shot at Folkestone, but he won from a draw where horses haven't been winning this year, away from the Stands Rail. Horses in the sprint races haven't been winning from that draw. So he did really well to make up a lot of ground in the final furlong, and then ran very well in a conditions race up at Newmarket on his final start, just beaten a neck under Paul Hannigan. Sprinters, 3-year-olds, often a tough year for sprinters. I think he's a tough horse, so I'm sure he'll take it. He travels very well in his race, and he has that fantastic asset of being able to quicken off a fast pace, and that hopefully will stand him in good stead next year. Difficult year as a 3-year-old sprinter, but hopefully we can find opportunities for him, maybe abroad. He's one that we could be thinking of going to France and beyond with.
Sweet Ophelia, she showed definite promise.
Sweet Ophelia, yeah. The same ownership as Billy Ray Valentine. Great old friends of mine, William Russell, Nick Wheeler, William's uncle David Russell, Dominic Vale, Jeremy Minchin also involved in this horse, Sweet Ophelia. Frankie, pleased with her on debut, a nice maiden at Salisbury. She was third. Slowly away, Frankie gave her plenty of time to find her feet. Really got going in the final furlong under just a perfect debut ride. she learnt plenty. Frankie got off and liked her, and that's all that we can ask for, to have a good judge like him being pleased with the horse on debut. And yeah, I think he would be keen to be involved with her through next summer, I hope very much.
Where do you see her ending up?
She will be a 1.25 mile horse of that, I'm sure. She's, it was only her first run, and it wasn't the hottest maiden ever run at Salisbury, so we're not going to start getting carried away. And we were very close to running her again, but she just sort of, fillies this time of year, autumn time, it's very difficult. We got the gut feeling, Patrick and Valerie, that the best thing to do was to forget about her and treat her like the proper horse that we think she is. To say where she's going to end up at this point, obviously I hope Royal Ascot and Goodwood at all the right places. But she gives us much hope, and like a lot of the other ones, she'll be back from her holiday sooner rather than later. We'll get going with them at the end of this month, beginning of January.
Oscar Cloche was unlucky. Watched him recently at Foss last year. Dom was getting a good tune out of him.
Yeah, really, and that was very disappointing. It was disappointing to see him fall. It was a great thrill to see him jump with such fluency up until that point and travel so well. Owned by the Welsh and Wolverhampton Wanderers goalkeeper Wayne Hennessy, who's become a good friend of ours. And Wayne has been very patient with this horse. This horse is a chaser. That's what he's all about. But he needed more time over hurdles than perhaps was ideal. But it's getting there with him. The penny is dropping. Travelled really well the other day. I'm sure he would have bustled up the odds-on favourite. Easy to say now in retrospect, but it was 4 out. It was a long way from home, but he was going very well. Gerald was very pleased with the horse, as were we. Disappointing to see him end up on his nose, and please God he hasn't lost confidence because of that. But I'm sure he's a horse who's ready to win, and will undoubtedly give Wayne and his family a lot of fun going forward.
Nice bonny shots of Relentless Harry walking around the yard this morning.
Yeah, he's a nice horse. We thought plenty of him before he won on debut. It was a bit of a backup plan, as I alluded to already, to Belgian Bill. We had the owners out in Istanbul, and if he'd run disappointingly, I did have the backup of Relentless Harry running 20 minutes later, and we got the double up of Belgian Bill running fantastically, and Relentless Harry winning well on debut. Frankie rode him at Windsor. He was fourth. He just got a little bit outpaced early on and was doing all his best work at the end of the race. A horse who needed a holiday and has benefited massively for that. Owned by the same gang who own Belgian Bill, as I said, and I'm hopeful that he can be nearly as good as Belgian Bill. I think he's a proper horse.
Proper horse. What trip do you see him running over?
I think he'll be running over six furlongs, 7 furlongs next year, that sort of trip. But he just got a little bit outpaced at Windsor early on. He was a bit inexperienced. He was a bit green, and they'd gone. It was a race with plenty of pace, and he was playing catch up in the middle part of the race and didn't have much left at the end. But still finished fourth, not beaten far, not disgraced. Yeah, plenty more to come.
Where do we start talking about George Baker, the horse?
George Baker, the horse, yeah, I mean, one of those ridiculous stories that took an awful long time to come to fruition. I wasn't allowed to put him on the lorry down here to Whitesbury. The rest of the team quite rightly decided that he should go off and play polo or stand in a muddy field somewhere and have a happy retirement, having not won. But I snuck him on, and he's been a revelation this year. It's been fantastic. David Kenny, a very, very talented and promising apprentice, he won on him and went past the line punching the air. I think he knew how much it meant to me that day. And then he won again at Salisbury. Charlie Bishop rode him. And then we had a good evening at Newmarket, a flying dismount from Frankie Dettori, which off George Baker is not words that I thought I would ever put in the same sentence. And then the beautiful supermodel Edie Campbell won on him at glorious Goodwood. And then finally we got the George Baker at Leicester, which was a great relief. It's been fantastic. It's been a good story. Yeah, it had been a very frustrating story. I mean, he's a lovely horse, and who knows? Hopefully he can go on again next year. But yeah, he's had a stellar year, and it's been a lot of fun to see him finally come good, and obviously personally a lot of fun.